So I am Matt Brown, and I'm back with another lesson. This time we're going to be jamming out on Cream's Crossroads. This is Eric Clapton's first solo from the classic Cream cover of the Robert Johnson song. So this is it's harmonically really simple. It's just a blues and A. What we have though, it's a rock feel, so straight eighth notes, real driving, and we've got a quick 4 change. Now, if you're not familiar with blues concepts, really all that means is you go to the 4 chord in bar 2, instead of just playing the 1 chord across the first 4 bars. So what I played there is just kind of the verse to work into it. Just give it some context to the form. So now let's start taking a look at some of the solo stuff and what's going on with that. So I'll switch over to clean, and what's going on here? It starts off with he's got the last bar of the verse to throw in some notes before the bulk of the form starts. So I'll start at the end of the solo or the verse, I guess. So we have this measure here, and what he does is just a little kind of major pentatonic idea to, sort of say, okay, solo's starting, so get ready for it. So that's the first phrase of the solo there. So very major pentatonic. That's the next lick. So all A major pentatonic. So the next little thing's got some cool double stops. So some major pentatonic stuff again. Hammer-on there to the 7th fret. And then we have the real common bluesy thing. A lot of theory people call it a chromatic enclosure, where you're sort of encircling the 3rd of the chord. So maybe put it into context, they'll play it that far. And then what's going to happen is a minor pentatonic click. So if we look at kind of the analysis of what scales he's using here to start off the solo, it's really common, I guess, blues scale vocabulary. He's just using the major pentatonic, or over here, over the 1 chord to highlight the chord tones. Now, usually on the 4 chord, your scale options, if we're in the key of A, most people, what they're going to do is kind of generate most of their notes then from the minor pentatonic, A minor pentatonic. And also, a note that gets thrown in there, though, a decent amount, is the F sharp from your major pentatonic, just because that's the 3rd of your 4 chord there. So, to recap there, the notes, try to shoot for, I'd say, minor pentatonic or blues scale, or maybe throw in, that 3rd there of the F, or the F sharp, which is the 3rd of D7. So that's, a lot of theory there. So that's the next lick. So now we're into our D7 chord. So back up some. And that's kind of a trademark Clapton thing. You're going to hear that in a lot of his solos. now this next lick as well. So that's a really cool way to transition back to the 1 chord. So he's throwing that major third there of the 1 chord to sort of highlight that resolution that happens there. Alright, so moving on, some kind of cliche, well I guess they maybe weren't cliche at the time, but they are now, sort of major, minor pentatonic stuff. So that was definitely something that was around at that time. You know, we've all heard that. Alright, so now some more double stops. So this double stop here, if we're playing in a blues nay, you can use it over the 1 chord or the 4 chord. It's going to sound great over both. So, okay, go back. And then what we have here is another double stop. So, is the next little idea there. And that takes us pretty much to the end of this chorus. So that's the first 12 bars. So pickup notes. So, and then we've got the turnaround lick. So, I think any blues guitarist, if you're going to play blues, it's really important to memorize so many of these turnaround licks and to have them going in a bunch of different styles. You know, like if you're going to play over a shuffle or over a straight rock groove, you need to have a big bag of these to pull from. And this is a really good one to play. You can really get it ripping really fast. So, you know, just email me for the tabs if you need some extra help with this. But the turnaround is this. So really cool. And that ends that chorus. So now we're on to our second chorus. Now, what I'll talk about here is, you know, if you're playing a solo that's multiple choruses, which most of the time, if you're playing blues, jazz, you are going to be playing more choruses than just one. So, a chorus being 12 times through just the 12-bar form, one time, that's a chorus. So what Clapton does in this solo, and, you know, it happened in that Dave Navarro one we looked at too, is he takes the solo basically up an octave. He's working out of this A minor pentatonic position, which would be 12th position of the fretboard. And he starts to dig in a little bit more, starts to get a little bit more aggressive with his pick attack, which also builds tension. But, you know, the higher notes, it builds tension as well, and that's what he's doing here. He's building tension and working towards a climax. So this part. Back into the verse. So with this chorus too, he gives a change in scale choice too to also build some tension. And here what's going on, over the one chord he's playing minor pentatonic for the most part this time. Instead of last chorus he was playing a lot of major pentatonic licks. So that's something that you can think about to do as well. Is start your first chorus with some major pentatonic ideas, and then move to minor pentatonic for the second chorus. Or you could do the opposite: start with minor pentatonic over the one chord. Next chorus, maybe throw in some major pentatonic ideas. So that's another just an idea to throw at you. So here's this. So he's just kind of teasing these three notes from the pentatonic, which is such a buddy guy thing to do, and it's really cool. You can just get a lot of emotion from those three notes. Then the next thing is, so then what happens here is he's bending the 15th fret up to E, and it's off the beat. It's on the upbeats. So that, again, it's another thing that's going to build a lot of tension. Repeating a bend. And it's just, again, all of this is about building tension and drama, which Clapton is a master of. So the next lick. He's really, it's almost like he's creating kind of like some closure to the solo by kind of, I guess, creating like musical bookends. Like the beginning had a lot of that stuff, and then the end does as well. So it kind of, it's a nice compositional thing to kind of bring it all around to what you started with before moving on with the song. So that's kind of my analysis of what's going on with the note choice, the scales, and how he created this solo effectively. I mean, it's improvised, but so he's pulling this stuff out on the spot. But obviously, he's learned a lot of vocabulary and a lot of licks from his favorite guitarists that have been worked into this. So I guess the moral of the story is you can use a lot of these licks over playing a blues, or not necessarily a blues, but some harmony that works with these types of licks. A lot of these licks, too, even though they're played in a straight rock feel, you can incorporate them into like a shuffle if you change the rhythms up. So I'll try to play this real slow. I'll play the verse, then go into the solo, and then we'll talk about tone a little bit, and I'll move it back up to tempo. So here we go. It's back into the verse. Alright, so with the tone for this, it's kind of a challenge if you're playing through, like I'm playing through a dual rec. So the challenge is to recreate like sort of an older tone with like a more modern amp. And thankfully this thing's pretty versatile. So what I do is I like to put it on channel 2. then there's you can switch it. There's like different modes, so I put it on the raw mode. The other settings were sounding a little too saturated, so this I think works out pretty well. It gives you kind of that overdriven, maybe like, I guess it was an old Marshall that he was playing through. And then I'm playing personally on the middle pickup, which I think sounds probably most appropriate on this guitar. You know, maybe if you're playing a Strat like he was, maybe you might want to experiment with a different pickup, but probably the middle is what you want to go with. Alright, so here's a last look at the solo. I'll play it up to tempo again. I'll lead in with, I guess, the verse part to give it some context again. Thanks a lot. I'm Matt Brown. Maybe check out my other videos if you like this one, and I'll see you around. Thanks.